Hello, hello, hello. Here we are. Melissa was mentioning in the comments that YouTube better not mess around with us today. It was having some weird technical glitches on Saturday, which were not my fault. For once, tech issues were not my fault. Hello, Danielle. Hello, hello. I've missed you. So welcome everybody, those of you that are joining me live and those of you that are catching the replay. It is Get Crackin' on Christmas. So this is a fun initiative that I really just started with my friend Shari, honestly, because she and I were a little bummed out one year. We hadn't really created that many holiday cards, but we had bought in a lot of holiday stamps and supplies from various companies. So we challenged each other to blog a holiday card once a month. And we did that for a while, and then I had some people joining me, kind of like a little team. And I'm just still doing it because I actually really love to send holiday cards out to my friends and family. I'm really not the best at always sending a birthday card or a thinking of you card. And so part of the holidays is to sit down and write out cards for everybody and kind of catch up from the year. So I like to do this. I host this once a month. Some people think it's a little weird this time of year through the summer creating holiday cards, but I find it really inspiring. I like that the process isn't as rushed. All of my cards are different. I don't like to mass produce a card, so this is a fun way for me to get a nice variety. It's also a great way for me to justify purchasing some new holiday stamps and dies and all the things because I'm more apt to use it more. So I always post my card on my website on the third Thursday of the month, which was just last week. And in that blog post on my website, I always announce when I plan to go live. So here we are. We're at the live, whether you're watching live or watching on the replay. Thank you guys so much for joining. Yay, yay, yay. I was just looking. Hello, Miss Libby. Yes, the replay will be available anytime you would like to watch it. Yeah, it's actually, a lot of you guys saw my Instagram stories on Sunday. A lot of you were in class with me online on Saturday. It was gorgeous on the Cape. It was so warm. We had the Jeep windows off, doing all of our errands. We got our bird feeder and our flowers planted. And now we're chilly. It is so, so chilly. One of my followers is visiting the Cape this week, and she was asking for some recommendations. And she messaged me last night that she said she didn't realize she was supposed to pack a winter coat. It's chilly. All my windows are closed. I probably could have worn my pullover sweatshirt, but I'm wearing a good old comfy long sleeve today. Hello, everybody. Yes, and Nikki says she's taking a break from the Karen Reed trial for some crafty times. I love it. She and I were chatting behind the scenes. We're both watching the trial religiously. Hello, hello. Yeah, it feels like Christmas. Exactly, Sherry. So chilly. Hello, Amrita. Awesome. And Danielle says, I'm totally in the holiday creating spirit lately again. I love that. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera. We'll talk a little bit on what we are creating today. And one thing I like to say is if you don't get in the mood of creating holiday cards in May, I hope whatever I'm sharing with you throughout the year will inspire you to create a different themed card. Even if you wanted to, create a birthday card or create a thank you card, that is totally okay as well. Betsy says Christmas card making is great any time of the year. I agree. I agree. Hello, hello. A few people are just popping in to say hi, and I love that. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. So fun. So I created this card here. It is watercolored with distress watercolor pencils. I actually get a lot of questions from you guys. Most of you know my obsession with distress watercolor pencils, but I typically do a lot of different techniques, a lot of different backgrounds with them, and I don't generally color in images with them. And I've gotten a lot of requests from you guys to share some more coloring in of images. So I keep all of my holiday stamps that I purchase separate before I organize them into my whole set of stamps and dies and such. I keep them separate until I use them. And that way, each month when I go to make my Get Crackin' on Christmas card, I flip through and kind of pick out whatever inspires me, whatever jumps out at me. And this stamp set has been in my stash for a while now. It is by Unity Stamps, and it's illustrated by my friend Angie Blom. And if any of you have done my Copic 101 class and you've gotten the workbook from that class, I commissioned Angie to illustrate all of the artwork that is in that workbook. So I was excited to play with this stamp set. And so I created my card, I photographed my card, I sat down to blog it, and Janabler alert, I did see Brienne is here, and I'm not sure if she's still here, but hopefully she'll grab the link for you. But all of the supplies are linked in the description of my video. I also pinned at the top of the chat my blog post that has all the supplies. But Janabler alert, this stamp set is more than 50% off, you guys. It's under $15 right now. And I did double check it again this morning to make sure it was still on sale. It was last week when I wrote my blog post, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't spreading false information. So if you're a Winnie the Pooh fan and this card inspires you, then it is a really great deal over at Unity Stamps. So we are going to get started, and the other supplies that I used, which we'll talk about in a little bit more, but I used this Snowflake Burst Pinpoint plate from Simon Says Stamp for the background. And I love just to have a little bit of subtle texture. And if you have been following along in my Get Crackin' on Christmas adventure, snowmen and snowflakes, I'm always going to buy them. I'm always going to buy them. I'm obsessed. I don't want real life snowmen or snowflakes, but I love paper snowmen and snowflakes. Thank you so much, Miss Brienne, for linking that in the chat. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'm a huge Winnie the Pooh fan. I love all Winnie the Pooh, but I really do love classic Pooh. I do have a couple Winnie the Poohs here in my studio. Little known fact about me, I have a Winnie the Pooh tattoo that I got back when I was a teenager, or right when I just turned 18 or whatever it was. I did it legally, whatever age I had to be. I don't even really remember. Actually, it might have been, I was older than 18 because Josie was with me, and I didn't know Josie when I was 18. And so I'm a huge Winnie the Pooh fan. And again, I'm really excited to watercolor this card with you guys today. Oh, that's so awesome. Libby just commented that Angie Blom illustrates some products for Pink and Maine now too. She's amazing. I agree. She is amazing. All right, so for this card, I am going to be watercoloring, and typically I use my Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink for everything, for watercoloring and also for coloring with alcohol-based markers like Copic markers. It says right here, alcohol marker friendly, but it is also waterproof. So if you guys see me doing anything with my Distress watercolor pencils or my Copic markers, I'm always using this Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. However, what I also love is that Lawn Fawn has a whole bunch of inks that are the same formula, but different colors. So they have River Rock, which is a really great gray. They have Crunchy Leaf, which is a really great brown. And then they have Jellyfish, which is kind of like a no color ink pad. So whatever, you stamp with this, it comes out very, very faint. And then when you start watercoloring or coloring with your alcohol-based markers, the stamped line is going to take on the properties of whatever color that is, which is cool. I actually almost did use Jellyfish for this card. But what I did use is River Rock. And I love to just use a different outline because I just think it gives a whole different feel. I could have used Crunchy Leaf. It might have given a little bit more of a storybook feel, but I chose to go with River Rock because I had a feeling my background was going to be this moody kind of bluish gray. I kind of already had in mind what I wanted to do for the background. So I decided to use River Rock, which is a nice gray ink. And again, it is watercolor friendly, but it is also friendly with alcohol-based markers. So I have a piece of Distress watercolor cardstock. It's really the only watercolor cardstock that I use. It comes in packs of A2 panels like this, but it also comes in 8.5 by 11, and it has a textured side. Let's see if we can get that to show up. Textured side. It also has a smooth side. Typically when I'm stamping, I like to use the smooth side because then I just know it's going to stamp really nicely and keep all of the detail. All right. So we're going to take out these stamps, and Unity stamps are a red rubber cling. So when you get them, they have like a protective lining on the cling. You don't need to keep those. And then they cling to either your stamping platform or an acrylic block as well. All right, so I'm actually going to try, I think I used my Misty when I made my original sample, but I'm gonna try to use my acrylic block today. And if it doesn't work, we'll stamp it again. Live TV, gotta love it. Or live craftings. I wouldn't really say that this is TV. So I'm just looking at the comments real quick. If you guys have questions that I missed, just let me know or just repeat them. Putting the word question in all caps also really helps. So when I'm glancing up, I see the questions. I love that everybody's chit-chatting with everybody, but I don't want to miss any questions you guys might have. All right. So Brienne is in the comments linking, and she has fondly taken on the nickname Linking Ninja because she's so good at it. You'll see her in lives with a bunch of us in the industry. And I think I really made her work hard for her money, aka she's not really making money. She's just getting love from me. But on Saturday, she was trying to find a specific thing that I shared pertaining to class, but I had shared it a long time ago, and it took her over an hour to find it, but she found it. She stuck with it. So let's see. Heather says, the watercolor cardstock is different from the heavy stock. Yes, yes, yes. I have had a lot of people getting confused lately because I love Distress white heavy stock, but this is Distress Watercolor Cardstock. So two very different papers. Distress White Heavy Stock does not take to wet mediums as well, but that's what I love to use for ink blending. So if you ever see me ink blending, I'm using Distress White Heavy Stock, and this is Distress Watercolor Cardstock. So this is going to take to those wet mediums. All right, so I have my Distress Watercolor pencils. I have all 6 sets, no surprise there. And I have them broken up into rainbow order. I just followed one of the color charts for Distress on Ranger's website. If you go to their website and at the bottom of their homepage, it says organize your Ranger products. And they have swatch sheets, they have labels you can print out. And so anytime I want to put my Distress watercolor pencils or put any Distress product in a color order, I follow the list that they provide. I've had the Distress watercolor pencils since they came out a couple years ago. I love and use them so much. And then this spring, I was constantly peeling the paper down just a little bit to be able to get to the pigment. And I just kept peeling a little bit, using, peeling a little bit, using. And this spring, full disclosure, I was having a very stressful time. If you know the passport story, you know the passport story. And I needed to take my mind off of it and kill some time. So I went through and I shaved down my pencils, you know, almost all the way. So I didn't have to keep spending time every time I was using them, shaving them down. I don't have, actually I do have a brand new pencil, what they look like. Let me see here. Hold please. I was just going to show you. When you get them, they look pretty and like this, and this is just a sticker on the pencil. These have no lead in them. They're highly pigmented, so this is all crayon, or Distress watercolor pencil. Sorry, I don't like to say crayon because it confuses you with Distress crayons, but it's Distress watercolor pencils with just a sticker. So as you use the pencil up, you just have to peel back the sticker. And I got sick of just constantly peeling back, so I just went to town and shaved them all down. Okay, I know Danielle says, like Brienne would give up looking for a link. I hear ya. So when you're looking at an image like this, it might feel a little overwhelming, and you might not really know where to start. And I typically like to start with like whatever's the easiest. Maybe what the largest part of the image is, maybe what I definitely know what color something is going to be. And that's kind of where I start. And then I get warmed up and I feel like I can kind of move on, right? I typically like to use a paintbrush, not a brush that has the water in the barrel, because I like to have a better sense of how wet my paintbrush is. And the water brushes that have water in the barrel are super convenient. However, I find that you kind of lose a little bit of control because you never really can fully control how much water is coming out and staying in. Melissa says, I only use Distress Heavy Stock and Distress Watercolor Cardstock now. I was genabled. Hey, there's good things to be genabled on, right? Hello, Marianne. She says, dropping in before the people get here to do our septic line, 4G internet, so buffering is real. Oh boy. Thanks for popping in to say hello. Let's see. Oh, that's a good idea. Liz says that Brienne deserves a new book for her perseverance. I agree. And Brienne says, I will always remember my passport story because that is when you went to TD Garden just for me. Yes, Brienne, just for you. So like I said, I like to start with what I know I want to watercolor or what I find is easiest to just kind of get warmed up, right? So what I'm going to do is color the tree first. And I am going to be using Rustic Wilderness. And so my paintbrush is wet, but it's not dripping wet. And I'm just picking up some of that Rustic Wilderness. And because I know I have a lot of pigment on my paintbrush, I know that this is it's a very dark application of this watercolor. So I'm utilizing this time to kind of start to build in where I'm going to want some shadow. And I am not a fine artist. I went to school for graphic design. I took fine art classes. They were hard for me. It doesn't come naturally to me. But luckily, as crafters, when we're using these beautiful stamps, like this image that Angie illustrated, we can kind of just go with what the artist came up with, and we don't really need to figure it all out on our own, right? So anyway, so I am just kind of adding some of this pigment to the little squiggles, and that is the professional correct term, the squiggles of the tree. And we're just getting kind of warmed up. And now I am cleaning off my brush, so there's no more pigment and it's not very wet. It's just damp. And I'm just going to start to kind of pull some of this color from where we laid it down in the shadow, okay? So we're working on a watercolor cardstock, and these are watercolor pencils, so they're reactive to water. So just by using a damp brush, we can start to pull some of this pigment away. Since we had laid down so much pigment, it was nice and dark, we can now start to kind of pull it away and get a lighter version, okay? So as my paintbrush becomes dry, because remember, there wasn't a lot of water on it, I'll just dip it into my cup here again. And again, I'm just wiping it on the edge so I make sure there's no drips on it. You'll often see me, I touch it to my skin because I feel I have a better sense of how wet it is from the sense of touch versus the scent of, by the sense of touch versus the sense of sight. Oh boy, words are hard sometimes, you guys. Words are hard sometimes. So I'm just going around to each of these dark areas and again, just pulling some of the pigment away. So you'll have to let me know in the comments if you guys have played with distress watercolor pencils. Do you own them but you haven't played with them yet? Give me some thoughts on what we think about our distress watercolor pencils. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we have a lot more white space, right? Now I could take a clean brush and pull again another layer of color, but that's a little bit lighter than I really want my tree to be. So what I'm going to do is go back into my Rustic Wilderness paint watercolor pencil, and I'm going to just add some more pigment in that darkest area. Maybe not everywhere that I had put it down before, but just the main ones. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull the pigment again. Now, the reason why I'm doing this instead of just going right in and watercoloring is because I want it to be a lighter version. And I find I have more control if I do it this way versus going right from the pencil to the tree. I felt like it was going to look really dark from the get-go. So this is why I did it this way. Now I can tell my paintbrush is very wet, so I'm going to just kind of blot it off. I also do have my flour sackcloth next to me, so I could blot my brush on there if I wanted to. But again, I'm just kind of pulling some of this pigment to fill my tree in. While I'm doing this, it's also wetting the cardstock and making the watercolor cardstock nice and damp. So things are moving a little bit easier. And you get a lot more movement that way. Now, if I feel I have a lot of pigment on my paintbrush, that's when you'll see me go in and just clean it off in my cup of water so that I can kind of go back to pulling the existing pigment that's already here. I am not a true watercolorist where I have a well of clean water that I never go in with a dirty brush and then my dirty water. I just have this one cup, and honestly, I work with this cup sometimes for days. Even when it gets super, super dirty, I will still continue to use it. I think these distress watercolor pencils are so user friendly and they're so highly pigmented that even if your water is dirty, your color is not going to take on that dirty water color. I could have a dirty cup of water and go in with yellow, like mustard seed, and it'll still be nice and bright, light yellow mustard seed. All right, good. Yay. So lots of people have them and love them. Yeah, watercoloring, I find it very relaxing. I know if you're new to watercoloring, it might seem stressful, but the more you do it, I do find it very relaxing. I love to color with my Copics as well, but something about watercoloring, and I always say it might be the mermaid in me because it's working with water, but I just find it so calming just to kind of move everything around and kind of have a nice little flow going. I don't know, I just love it. So again, I'm going in with just a little bit more pigment in those really shadowed areas, just kind of dabbing it, and then I will pull one more time, just here and there. But yeah, this I feel like is coming out pretty good. Yay, a bunch of you have taken my Distress Watercolor Pencil Technique class. I love that. I have a part 1 and a part 2, and I think those are really great if you have purchased the Distress Watercolor Pencils and you're just nervous to try them out on your own. I think following the class is really great. And it's just a technique class. I say just, but what I mean is we don't make any finished cards. But that way you don't have to have specific stamps and dies to take the class. So, you know, no matter what your style is, I think the class would work for you. Yay, Anne says, after taking your class, I use them more often. It's what I grab first for watercoloring. Yeah, and a few of you have said you've made palettes with the shavings. I think that's such a great idea as well. I just kind of keep them right in here and use them in the tray like a palette. All right, so then I feel like my tree is looking pretty good. I'm going to let it be. My other tip when I'm watercoloring a scene like this, where there's a lot of bits of the image close to each other, is I stay away from what is wet as I go on to another section. So right around the tree right now is wet. So I'm not going to color the bear or Christopher Robin's hair, because the color might wick out and bleed into the tree. So I'm going to move completely elsewhere. And then that way, let things settle on the tree, let things dry, and then I won't have that issue of any possible bleeding, right? Any wicking out of color. So I'm going to color Christopher Robin's book, and I actually used old paper. Shocker, I know, but old paper for the paper. And I was going to try to distinguish the book pages or the book cover, but I decided just kind of keep it simple. I just watercolored it all with old paper. I don't know if this was what I colored second when I originally did this image. I think I had some more colors already down at the time. And the other thing when you're coloring a scene, I think sometimes limiting your colors is nice, because if you've got a lot of different things going on, it can kind of look cluttered and look a little, jumbled if there's too much going on. So I decided to keep it simple by just coloring them all like the pages, and pretending we really can't see the cover at all. All right, and then next I'm going to go ahead and I'll do his boots, since I have brown in front of me. And so for Christopher Robin's boots, I did vintage photo. And so I'm just going in, and I don't really think you need to concentrate a ton on adding shadow and depth on every element that you're watercoloring. So his boots are going to be down here, obviously, and I already knew I was going to be putting these mica flakes at the bottom, because I love this on holiday cards. So you're not seeing his boots a ton, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time giving it some dimension, because I'm going to work more on the main images and doing that. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Brienne says that she has 2 sets. One set that she keeps in the trays like I do, and one set that she keeps dry. I started to do that, and I don't ever use them dry. So that's what I initially did when I first got them, but now I'm just like, meh, it's all good. All right, sticking with browns, I am doing the honey pot, and for that I used walnut stain. And again, you can see how I'm moving around my image so that I'm letting things dry, and I'm not touching next to each other so that there's no bleeding. Now, I know my honey pot is round, and I do want to try to make it appear to have a curve. So you can see that I'm, dabbing on some pigment on the left side a little bit more generously than the right side. And then I'm going to clean my brush, make it so that it's only damp, not very wet. And I'm going to start to pull that pigment so that we'll have a lighter area towards the center and hopefully help it appear to have a curve. Heather's asking, you might have said, but what do you look for in an ink to know it's watercolor friendly? It will say, Heather, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure the company will list it, but like on the back of Lawn Fawns, it says waterproof, fast drying, and permanent. So the waterproof is what you're looking for. Let's see, Mary. Oh, Mary, so sweet. She says, I'm amazed and very grateful that you provide us with so much opportunity for learning outside of the organized classes and etc. I enroll for your classes. I love your style, but you are extra generous. Well, thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate that, because I don't know, I'm kind of hard on myself sometimes. I wish I was uploading more YouTube videos for you guys and providing even more, but there's a lot to juggle. And my friend Josie helps me here and there, and she'll help me behind the scenes from afar, but I really am still just a party of one over here on Cape Cod doing all the things. So I really appreciate you saying that, because I sometimes wonder if I am offering enough of a variety, because I don't want everything that I offer to have to be paid for, because I appreciate you guys, and I really do just love sharing creativity and hopefully inspiring you guys to use your stuff. That's my goal. All right, so I'm still just using that walnut stain. I am building up some dark around the lid of the pot, or the opening of the pot. And where I pulled the color, I'm kind of adding in a little bit more dark. I can tell it's a little bit wetter than I want it to be. So I think I'm going to go away from it for a minute. And I'll come back and kind of smooth it out maybe. Or maybe I'm just going to try right now, because I'm impatient. That's my other downfall, is I am impatient. All right, I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna leave it for now. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and do Christopher Robin's pants. And for that, I did Broken China. So one thing I've noticed, I have been using Distress ink pads since literally the day they came out. I was managing the paper crafting store here on Cape Cod, and I remember when they came out. And we carried them right away, and we continue to carry them, and I continue to use them, and I've just been on this Distress journey since it started. And back in the day, Broken China was the only like bright blue, Jen Shirkus blue, right? So I used to use it all the time. Like Peacock Feathers wasn't out, so, and we definitely didn't have Salvage Patina. So anyways, what I was going to say is, since having the Distress watercolor pencils these past several years, I find because I have them in rainbow order like this, I'm using more of the colors. And what that's doing is inspiring me to use different ink pads as well when I'm doing techniques with their ink pads or with the sprays. I'm pulling different colors that I haven't really given love to over the years. So Broken China is is one of them. Now I'm taking that Broken China, and I am doing a decent, generous amount of pigment where I want a shadow. Okay, remember I said some of the images I'm going to make sure there's shadow, and some of it I'm not going to worry about. Thank you so much, Sherry. She says, Jen, you offer a lot, and most of the time I don't have the time to partake in all the things, but I'm very grateful for you. Well, thank you so much. You guys are the best. And Mary says, your messy pencils used to really bug me, but mine are starting to look similar. That's the true Janabling right there. And you can see how I turn my paper so that it's more convenient and comfortable for me. And I have a damp brush, and I'm just pulling this pigment just a little bit, not all the way, but just a little bit, to start to kind of make that gradient. And when I feel like I have a lot of pigment on my brush, I will clean it off so that I can then pull again, so it'll be an even lighter version. And we're giving him some blue jeans. That's what we're doing. Okay. And while it's still damp, I'm going to just dab in a little bit more Broken China in the shadows. Again, clean the brush, make sure it's nice and damp, and then just kind of pull a little bit. So cute, right? All right, let's see. Next, we will watercolor. Oh, you know what I did? I really wasn't sure what was going on up here, so I'm just pretending this is still part of his pants. It might be part of a shirt, but I think it could go either way. Angie, if you're watching or you watch, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your drawing, your art. Okay. There we go. All right, so now let's go ahead and start Winnie the Pooh. I feel like my tree is definitely dry enough. And so we can go ahead and start to watercolor him. Hello, Jill. Thanks for popping in. I'm glad you're here. All right, so for Winnie the Pooh, what I did is I used fossilized amber and scattered straw. So what I'm going to do is I started with fossilized amber, and I'm just going to kind of put down like a base color. I'm very lightly, my brush is not super wet. I'm just kind of getting some color down. I am being a little brave going close to that honey pot. I just realized that might still be wet, so I'm going to be really careful not to touch my brush to it because we don't want the brown paint to go into Winnie the Pooh. That would be bad. All right. So again, this is just scattered straw, and I'm just kind of getting a base color down. I'm not trying to do any blending or shadow or dimension or anything. We're just getting some color down. All right. And just remember, you guys, the comments are so delayed for me. So if I seem like I'm not answering you right away, that could be why. And then if I'm still not answering you, just ask again. But I have the YouTube stream up. I can only see a little snippet of it. That way I can make sure I'm still live and everything's going okay. But then I'm in my software here reading your comments, and it's crazy to me how far behind the comment, like the video is. Like, just for example, I just started putting yellow on Winnie the Pooh right now. So anyways, all right. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to pick up some scattered straw. My paintbrush is not super wet. It's not dry, but it's not drippy. And I talk about this a lot whenever we are watercoloring together, is that's the hardest thing when I'm teaching watercoloring, is telling you how much water and how little water, because it's like, well, how do you explain that, right? We're not like measuring it out like if we were cooking something. So, but this brush is wet, but it's not dripping wet, and it's not dry. But it was wet enough to be able to wet the pencil and pick up a lot of pigment. And you can see I'm going to now lay it down where I want my shadow to be, essentially. And if you see me going over to my water cup, I'm not dunking my whole paintbrush in. I'm barely touching the brush to the tip of the water, or to the edge of the water. I'm touching the tip of the brush to the edge of the water. So it might look deceiving, like I'm constantly dunking my brush in the water, but I am not. All right. So now that I have a little bit of an idea where my shadow is, I'm cleaning off my brush and I'm making sure that it's just damp. And we're going to just start to pull the color. And again, I'm not going to pull it all the way to fill in the whole bear. I'm just pulling it a little bit. And you're going to work your way around the image. Okay. You can see I'm kind of bouncing around, mainly because I know I'm starting to get a lot of pigment on my brush and I don't want to have everything look the same, right? I don't want it to all be the same tone. So that's why now I've cleaned my brush. It's just damp and I'm going to pull one more time and we'll see what it looks like and see if any areas need help. Now, one thing I'll tell you, if you're used to coloring with alcohol-based markers, you need to remind yourself that this is not, oh, I forgot his little hand on the side of the pot. This is not going to look the way it would look if we colored with markers. If we wanted it to look like we were coloring with markers, we would have chosen markers. So it's not going to look as smooth. It's not going to look the same. And you just need to remind yourself of that. That's one thing I love about the look of watercolor is that splotchy look, right? So just keep that in mind. If you're used to coloring with markers and you start trying watercoloring, you got to get it out of your head that it's going to look like the other stuff you've colored, right? Excuse me. My iced coffee just went down the wrong way. Thank you so much, Kathy. She says, I'm learning so much from you today. I'm off to work out. I'll catch the rest on replay. Have a great day, Jen and friends. Thank you. Thank you. And Heather says, this is really inspiring me. I can't wait until my baby takes a nap so I can pull out my pencils. I love that. That does remind me, if you guys are get cracking on Christmas at all, feel free to tag me in what you create. And even if today's project creates or inspires you to create a non-holiday card, definitely still tag me because I love, love, love to see what you're creating. Excuse me. Okay. So I think he looks pretty good. I think he looks really good, actually. So I'm going to let him be. I'm not going to keep doing anything. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do Christopher Robin's hair next. And I used Rusty Hinge for his hair. And anytime you're coloring something and you're not sure what color to do, Google is your friend. And I honestly couldn't remember if Christopher Robin had red hair or brown hair. And so I Googled it, and he has both, actually. He's been portrayed with both. So I went with red. I just thought, again, kind of the variety of colors, I thought that looked good. So I just did an even covering of Rusty Hinge. And now I'm just going in with a little bit more pigment on my brush. And I'm just adding in a little bit of detail to his hair just by tracing those hairlines. I have a damp brush, no pigment on it, and I'm just kind of dabbing to soften those lines so they don't look just like lines. And we will go ahead and leave that. Jill says, I love your nail polish. What olive and June color is that? I love that Jill knows me so well that she already knew it was going to be olive and June. So my nail polish had chipped. I did a quick dry polish last week when I had to do my unboxing video for my Creative Journey Art Retreat. And that's what I had on my nails over the weekend, but it had started to chip. It was a quick dry polish, so those don't last as long. And this morning I really wanted to paint my nails blue to match my toes, but I was running out of time. So what I did is I took my polish off and I just threw this nail brightener on. So this could be a base coat or you can use it on its own. It has like a little bit of a shimmer to it. If you're familiar with Olive and June, it's similar to like pink goldfish. So that's what it is, a nail brightener. Kathy's listening through the car. I love it. I do that sometimes too, for sure, for sure. Hey, you could listen to me while you're working out too, depending on if you're going to a class or not, maybe not. But if you're just going to be working out on the machines. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and do his Christopher Robin's scarf. And for that, I used crushed olive, or no, I used peeled paint. Hopefully you guys are hearing me okay. The sound's okay. I am using my mic today. Hoping that it doesn't just shut off on me, which it does sometimes, hence why I don't always use it. All right, and so his scarf is just teeny tiny, so I am literally just going to color it in with peeled paint. Remember, this is a very teeny area, so I don't want to have a lot of water on my paintbrush or I will lose control of where this color is going. So yeah, just doing the little slivers here, and that's good. All right, and then Winnie the Pooh's scarf, I decided I was going to do some purples. And so what I'm going to do is color the whole scarf Dusty Concord. And then I'm going to put Villainous Potion on the stripes. So again, I'm not going to worry too much on adding any shadow and dimension because I decided I was going to go in and add the stripe detail separately. So I'm really just kind of putting a base color down with Dusty Concord. Thank you guys. Hopefully, if you were nervous about watercoloring in your images, hopefully this is making you maybe a little less nervous about it. Doesn't have to be complicated at all. All right, we're going to let that dry. We would not go right in and do stripes because the stripes would all splodge out. So we're going to let that dry. And so next what I think I'll do is the bench that the Christopher Robin and Pooh are kind of resting on. And for that, I used pumice stone. I actually really love pumice stone. It's not like a fun color per se, if you like bright colors like I do, but I find I use it a lot. And so I'm going to add a lot of pigment on this top edging. Right. And then I'll clean my brush and I'm going to just start to kind of bring it down. I can already tell my brush is way too wet. So I just kind of wiped it off on my hand. Again, you could use your cloth. It's easy to wipe it on my hand and I know I'm going to be able to clean it off easily. All right, so again, I'm going back in with pumice stone and adding some more along that edging. And then clean my brush, make sure it's only damp, and start to bring that color down. All right. And then, oh, well, I remember, well, when I was coloring, I was like, what is this little chunk over here? And then I realized it's the tree trunk. I don't want to color that just yet because the bench is wet now. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to do Christopher Robin's skin. And I just decided to use Tattered Rose just to kind of put some color on it. But again, I'm really just kind of coloring it in, no shadow or blending or anything. And once that dries, I am going to add a little rosy cheek to him. Because I do love to do rosy cheeks on my critters, but I really feel like Christopher Robin kind of has rosy cheek. So we're going to let that dry and then we will move to that. All right, so now we've got honey. We can do the honey next in the pot. And I used wild honey. I used wild honey for the honey. And again, I know my pot is dry, and I know Winnie the Pooh is dry, and I know my tree is dry. And I'm just saying that because this is such a little area, we don't want to go into it with color and a wet brush because things will start to run if we do. And then that's when things get a little scary, not gonna lie. But we're just dabbing on some wild honey on the honey, okay? So now what we're going to do is Christopher Robin's jacket. And I really wasn't sure what to do for his jacket. And believe it or not, I chose a red. I know it's crazy, but I did choose lumberjack red, which is a really nice, like maroony, pinky red. So now you'll understand why you're not surprised that I chose red. But so what we're going to do is, and red is such a strong pigment that we really want to be careful. And it's kind of why I left it till last, honestly. But what I'm doing first is just like what I did with Winnie the Pooh. I didn't do a base color first, but what I did is you're just going to lay down where you want the shadow. And then we're going to go ahead and pull the pigment once we get it done. Now, I decided his little sprig of, I don't know, pine bough that's in his pocket, I decided that's just going to stay brown or stay the ink color. I decided I'm not going to color it because it just would have been really hard. I could go over it with something once I get his jacket colored, but I decided not to. So, artistic license, you guys. You can do what you want, what you're comfortable with. This is the inside of his like hood. So I'm doing it fairly dark. And now I'm going to start to pull that color. So again, I find turning my cardstock so that it's more comfortable for me. And I have a damp brush and I'm just going to start to pull just a little bit. I'm going to avoid the pocket for now. I will get back to that. I'm going to color right over the button because I'll add some white gel pen to that later. And I'm just doing my initial pull, which means I'm not going very far, but just pulling some of that pigment. I'm going to clean my brush. I wanted to show you guys my water is getting dirty. but you will see that it's not tainting the colors at all. And so now I'm doing my second pull. And it might not look like much at first, but just stick with it. Okay. And then I'm going to do my last pull, although I won't be done with the jacket per se. Brienne just said she's always surprised when I choose red. I know, right? It doesn't happen often. Doesn't happen often, but sometimes. And this is very traditional holiday colors for me. I typically do more brights and non-traditional holiday colors on my cards. But when you're talking about classic Winnie the Pooh, I think we're talking about some tradition. All right, so this is where we're at, and I can't really pull anymore, right? There's not much left. So what I like to do is kind of what I did with the tree. I'm going to go back into my pencil. I'm going to grab a little bit of pigment, and I'm going to put it back down on the shadowed areas. Maybe not everywhere I put it, maybe not as much as I originally put it, but that way I can kind of just pull and have a little bit more to work with. So I just pulled, I'm cleaning my brush, making sure it's only damp, and then pull again. I don't have patience, and I sometimes rush things. These are traits of mine. I just know. But when I'm working with colors that are a little bit trickier, like a dark, dark red like this, or a dark, dark blue, or dark, dark purple, I really do try my best to take my time. Now, I just noticed on my paintbrush, I've got a droplet here and a droplet here. Can you see those? Those are going to be problemsome. So I just wiped my brush off on my cloth, because if those plop down, then we're not going to be happy. So luckily I saw those. But I'm just pulling a little bit, cleaning my brush, making sure it's only damp, and pulling some more. I do want to put a little bit of color in his little nook of his elbow, but I don't want to do that just yet because I know my cardstock's really wet. So if I do, it is going to wick out. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of work on his pocket. And I'm just going to add. And again, I'm his stripe on the pocket, I end up going over with a white gel pen. Any little detail that you're afraid you won't be able to keep, color right over it and just highlight it with a gel pen. Don't stress. So I'm just cleaning, pulling, cleaning, pulling. I'm going to add a light color of this red on the trim of his hood. Right? And then now I'm going to try to go into that little nook on his elbow here, just to add a little bit. Whoops, that was too much. So, too much. I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to use my brush to kind of soak that up. Clean my brush again, use my brush to kind of soak it up. Here we go. That's looking pretty good. Right? Not too bad. All right, let's go ahead and do the trunk on the tree. I keep plopping out water droplets from my cup because I'm closer than normal because of being on screen. So the trunk, I used ground espresso and really just colored it in. No need to do any detail because it's just kind of a filler, right? And then we can go ahead and try to rosy the cheek on Christopher. And for that, I think I just did a little bit of spun sugar. So what I'm going to do is grab some spun sugar. I'm going to go ahead and just add a rosy cheek. It's going to look a little clownish at first. And then with a clean, dry brush, just kind of dab over it again. Or clean, damp brush, I should say. And it kind of took some of that color away. Oh, and I think I added a little bit of spun sugar into Pooh's ear too. All right. Now, I knew what I was going to do for my background. I knew I was going to use weathered wood. So, and I'm going to end up very simply fussy cutting this image out. But I'm not going to go between Winnie the Pooh's legs or anything. So I'm just going to add a little bit of weathered wood in here. And then it's just going to match the background. And in between Christopher Robin's here. And then that way I don't have to worry about it, right? So what do we think, guys? Not too bad. Not too scary. I think it came out really cute. Oh, good. Mary says, having fun watching now, but will create later. So I'm going to just set this aside. There is a little bit of wet areas. I'm going to just let things dry on its own. But what we can do is work on our background. So like I said, for the background, I used this Snowflake Burst Pinpoint plate from Simon Says Stamp. I think it's so pretty. I think this would be beautiful cut out of a metallic paper as well, like a gold or a champagne. But I just did it out of another piece of distress watercolor cardstock. And what I'm going to do is create my just kind of like a storybook watercolored background, which I just realized I am actually going to cut this out first because it helps me know kind of the shape that I want my background to be watercolored on. So let me just back up a little bit. Since kind of we're done that detail work. And so I'm just going to very easily fussy cut this out. It's not really a tricky image per se to do that. If you didn't want to fussy cut it out, you could have stamped it on a like stitched rectangle, you know, or you could have just had it right on the background of your card and not had it popped up. There's many options for you if you're not into fussy cutting, but I actually don't mind fussy cutting sometimes. I don't want to fussy cut everything like the olden days, but we can, you know, do it once in a while. So I've talked about fussy cutting a lot actually on my Get Crackin' on Christmas videos because another brand that I love to use is Purple Onion Designs. And they are red rubber and they don't have dyes either. So I'm always sharing fun tips and tricks with their stamps. And Get Crackin' on Christmas has a whole playlist so you can go back and watch previous videos. But when I'm fussy cutting, I love squeezy scissors like this. These are the Tim Holtz Tonic ones. I love that they're not like stuck in, you know, my fingers aren't stuck in the holes of scissors. And you'll see I'm barely squeezing down my scissors, but it's more just about turning your paper. Oh my gosh, Anika just reminded me I didn't do the stripes on Winnie the Pooh scarf. I will. Let me get this fussy cut out. Thank you for reminding me. I will show you how I did that. And while that's drying, I will do the background. I do try to keep my Get Crackin' on Christmases just about an hour. This one obviously has run over a little bit. But believe it or not, there's not much more to do. So if you're sticking with me for the whole thing, we shouldn't be much longer. The background actually takes very little time to get done, believe it or not. All right. Just going around my tree points. But you'll see I'm just barely squeezing down on my scissors, but I'm more concentrating on moving my paper. Something satisfying for me is keeping my paper all in one piece like this when I'm fussy cutting, but if it gets in your way and that's annoying, then just snip it away. I don't know. The other thing that this reminds me of is when we're packing a lot of orders for like my Creative Journey Art Retreat that's coming up. We shipped over 300 boxes. So my friend Josie helps me. And she's learned now I like to leave the label roll, like where we peel off the labels, all that extra backing. I like to leave it piled on the floor and accumulating throughout the day because it just makes me, I look and see it and it makes me feel so productive. One time she like ripped it off and threw it away to like stay tidy. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Okay. The stripes on Pooh's scarf. Let me zoom back in for you guys. What I did is I used Villainous Potion. And you want to make sure that your paintbrush is just damp. It doesn't have a lot of water on it. You might need to have your brush be wetter to get the tip of your pencil wet to be able to pick up some pigment. But when you go to start painting, you don't want it to be very wet or you will lose control. So if you can see, he's got lots of stripes on this scarf. And so what I just chose to do, again, artistic license, is start with one stripe, right? And then just skip and do another. Like, I might not even be following the artwork perfectly, but I'm just getting in there and adding stripes. And again, my paintbrush is not wet at all. It's just damp. And that way I don't have any drippiness or anything, and I have more control with what I'm doing. Now I'm getting down here and I can tell my stripes are getting a little bit lighter in color and I want them to be fairly uniform. So I'm just going to get some more pigment. There we go. And that's it. That's stripes. All right. So now what I did for my background, and this is why I wanted to fussy cut out my image first, we'll back up now, is I kind of used this so I would know kind of the shape that I was going for, so that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I would know the shape because I don't want to color in the whole background. I wanted to leave kind of some wispy edges. All right. So like I said, I used weathered wood for my background. And for the background, I do want a fairly wet brush. I kind of call it soupy. And I'm picking up a decent amount of pigment. And if you're, new to this, you could even just take your brush and just kind of like lay some down, right? Just to get an idea of the shape. I think when I did it on my own, I just kind of kept putting this in place. But this works. This works as well. And then now you can kind of get it out of the way. And so I'm picking up more pigment and I'm laying it down, kind of getting my initial color down first. You can tell I'm not thinking about it too much, but I am just kind of staying in that shape. All right. So now what I'm going to do, and again, you can see dirty water, but this is the true color of this color. I'm going in with just a very, very wet brush and starting to move around this pigment that we already placed down. And I really try to get kind of this organic edge so it does kind of look storybook-ish. Do you guys know what I mean when I say that? Like when you're reading a storybook, like classic Pooh, and it has the words on the page and above it, it has the picture, and they colored in the background on the picture, but it feathers out to white. That's what I mean by storybook background. You're welcome, Anika. Thanks for reminding me. I would have forgotten. All right, so now I don't really have a lot more pigment to move around, so I'm just going to go in with a brush that's really wet, grab some more pigment, and kind of move it around. Right? And one thing I do like to do is I will dry this with my Ranger heat tool. This is not an embossing gun. It's a big difference. It's not going to push all the ink around. It's not going to scorch my paper. It's just going to dry it. I do raise it up off of my glass tabletop. That way the heat goes through the paper, bounces off the glass, and also heats it from behind. So it actually heats it faster. And I'm just drying this enough to be dry. It doesn't need to be bone dry. But what I want to do, the reason why I'm doing this is I want to do another layer on top. Just to kind of get some more texture in there. Hello, Kathy. Good thing is, if you're late, you can always go back and watch the replay. So very, very wet brush. I'm really just kind of putting some more pigment in, basically more towards the center. I'm going to stay away from the edges this time. Okay, just like that. And now I'm going to go in with only a wet brush, no pigment. And you can see how I'm just softening those edges, but I'm staying away from the farthest most edges. Again, just so we have a few layers, just so we have kind of some interest. A lot of this is going to get covered up, remember, with our image that we watercolored, but it's going to look cute. Okay. So I'm going to let this dry. I might zap it with the heat tool in a minute, but I'm going to just set that aside. And what I did on this card is I wanted a nice red border, and I could have used a red cardstock for sure. But what I did is I just watercolored another panel of Distress Watercolor cardstock with that same lumberjack red pencil. So I have another piece of Distress Watercolor cardstock, and I'm just going to take lumberjack red, whoops, and add it on the edging. We are going to end up covering up most of this panel, so it doesn't have to be perfect. We just need a little edging. I could have used red cardstock, but I'll talk about my sentiment in a minute. And I wanted everything all to kind of coordinate together. So that's why I did it this way. Right. Looking good. Again, I'm just working on my glass tabletop, so super easy to just kind of wipe away the mess. So we'll go ahead and zap both of these at the same time so that we can get to our assembly. All right. Oh my gosh, Kathy, I use my pencil so much. And if you're looking for some more inspiration with distress watercolor pencils, I have lots of YouTube videos that, you know, are not paid classes. And if you just search distress watercolor pencils on my website, you will see hundreds of blog posts with inspiration. Yeah, I shaved them down, Kathy. I talked about it at the beginning of the video, but I use mine so much, and I was constantly peeling a little bit more paper, a little bit more paper. And one day I just sat there and shaved a bunch of them down just so I didn't have to keep doing that. All right, so what we are going to do is I'm going to trim this background down to be 4 by 5 1/4. So that our nice little red border will show up. So what I do is I take about 1/8 of an inch off of all 4 sides so it's nice and even. I do not really measure 1/8 of an inch on my paper trimmer. It's just halfway between the grid. And so I just eyeball it until I get it to be 4 by 5 1/4. And then I did add foam tape behind this panel. Got all the drawers open over here, which is typically how it goes. So I am just adding some foam tape behind this panel. It's still a little damp, but I think it'll stick. I'm not sure, Kim, if it really is less bulk because watercolor cardstock is just as thick, if not thicker, than colored cardstock. But I have to say, I know we are concerned a lot about bulk and mailing, but I pop up everything and have multiple layers, and very few of my cards do I feel need extra postage. Very few. All right, so we're just adding this to the background. Okay. And then we are going to go ahead and add our image to the background as well. I'm going to not flip it over. This background is still a little damp, but for the sake of crafting live, I'm not going to heat it up anymore. But I don't want to flip my watercolored image over on a damp panel because it might affect some of the colors. Yeah, definitely go back, Kathy, when I'm done this live and watch from the beginning because I think you'll get a lot of fun tips of how I watercolored the images and tips about your pencils. All right, so we're adding the tree, and I am adding it almost to the very top. So we will have room for the sentiment, okay? Oh, this might not stick down because of the dampness. But what I wanted to say is I pre-white embossed the sentiment. So this stamp set comes with a lot of really cute sentiments. I actually had a really hard time deciding. Family and friends are the truest joys of Christmas. Christmas is not what is under the tree. It's about who gathers around it. You make me the merriest. Let us gather and be merry. Sweet holiday wishes. Christmas must be coming, said Pooh. I can already feel the merry. That's the one I used. And Christmas is a togethery sort of holiday. So really sweet sentiments in here. And again, remember this set right now, as of filming on May 20th, 2025, is over 50% off. So definitely check that out at Unity. And I do have it linked below in the description of the video. I have my blog post linked where I have a full supply list as well. So what I did is I pre-white embossed the sentiment, and I just want to walk you through it. Sometimes I share this during live, and sometimes I don't. And today I knew well, it is kind of a class, but I knew the video was going to go long, so I pre-white embossed. But I just want to tell you what I did. I took the Lumberjack Plaid pencil and watercolored some Distress Watercolor cardstock. I dried that very, very, very well with my heat tool. Then I primed the cardstock with my the Rabbit Hole Designs Cottontail powder tool, which is awesome. I've been using this forever. I stock it in my store. There was a period of time Marianne was having a hard time getting these back in, but she has them restocked, and I have them stocked in my store again, and there was a price drop. She was able to reduce the cost of that. And then what I use is Lawn Fawn Pigment White ink, the Yeti ink, and I stamp the sentiment a couple times. Now this sentiment is very teeny tiny and very dainty. So I did use my Misty, my stamping platform, but what I did is I just very gently placed it down. I don't press hard. I just literally run my finger over. I don't really press. But I do it a couple times, because the first time you do it, the ink will start to soak into the paper. And then the other times I'm doing it, it's starting to build the ink to sit on top of the paper. This is just how I find getting a nice white emboss is what works for me. And then I use Brutus Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder. That is my favorite white embossing powder. I keep it in one of my glitter storage containers, but I keep the cap in here. Not that I don't know, but that way. It's the Brutus Monroe Alabaster White, and that is what I use for embossing. And then I use my embossing gun. I don't use my Ranger heat tool. I use my embossing gun to get a nice emboss. So that's how I did my sentiment. And again, I've shared this before on videos, so I don't mean to rush through. But again, I knew today's video was going to be a little bit longer, and I do try to keep these ones not too long. If you're curious of seeing the process and you want to see it on video, just send me an email to creative-chick@chircus.com. I'll find where I have shared it before. AKA, I'll ask Brienne. Just kidding. And I'll send you the link. Just kidding, Brienne. Just kidding. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just cutting these into word fetty strips. I like to use my scissors so they have a little bit more of a whimsical feel. And I am going to use the 3L foam strips, and I'm going to add it to my card. Now, again, nothing's sticking really well because my background is still damp, but what I think I'm going to do is not stick these down just yet. After my live, I'm going to dry my background a little bit better. But what I will show you is how I finished off my cards. Now, we know my motto is glitter all the things, right? But I 100% cannot make a holiday card without sparkle. Like, it's just, I think it's against the rules, honestly. So what I did for this card here is I used Distress Rock Candy on the tips of some of the branches. And then I used Distress Mica Flakes on the bottom here. So what I did, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through it with words because, like I said, my this is not sticking down because this is too damp still. I need to dry it. So anyways, but what I did is I use Distress Collage Medium for both of these. Now, somebody in my Facebook group this week actually asked what the difference is between Distress Rock Candy and Distress Prisma Glitter. I'm sorry, Lawn Fawn Prisma Glitter. And that's a really good question. So I hopefully answered her well in my group, but I'll just give you a quick rundown. So this is Lawn Fawn Prisma Glitter on the left, and this is Distress Rock Candy on the right. Rock Candy is a little bit grittier. It's not as fine, and that's why I use Distress Collage Medium to adhere it, because it needs a little bit more substance to hold on to it. The Sakura Quickie glue pen that I absolutely love, I only use with ultra fine materials. I do not use it with chunkier materials because this is not strong enough, all right? So, and then the other difference between Distress Rock Candy and Lawn Fawn Prisma Glitter is this is kind of like a shimmer, okay? And to me, this is like an iridescent sparkle. All right. And in my Facebook group, I had shared a couple different cards, blog posts where I used one versus the other. I really like to use, I've kind of figured it out. I gravitate towards Distress Rock Candy when it is something of nature. So like, again, on the tree, it's great for snow, which is what I did here. But I tend to use this on like flowers and fruits and butterflies and things like that. And then Lawn Fawn Prisma Glitter I use on all the other things, like party hats and letters and, oh my gosh, like everything. Scarves and trims of hats and things like that. So, but that's the difference. This is a little bit chunkier. It's a little bit heavier, meaning I need to use a wetter medium to hold on to it. I feel this is a more shimmer, and this is more a sparkle. All right, so hopefully that kind of clears things up. But so what I did is I just took my Distress Collage Medium and I added it to the tree where I wanted to have the rock candy. And then I take the rock candy with a spoon. I don't do this with Prisma, but with this, I take it with a spoon. And I take my finger and I just press, or you could take the back of the spoon. The thing about rock candy is it doesn't stick with you for life. I don't mind touching rock candy. I never touch Prisma glitter. And then I just kind of tap it off, right? So that's how I put that on. To do the Mica Flakes, similar, I take Collage Medium, squeeze it on very generously. You need a decent amount of Collage Medium. And then these are Distress Mica Flakes. And I just take it with my hand. It's not going to stay with you for life, so it's okay to touch it. And I sprinkle it on and then just press it gently into the glue and I tap it off. Now it's going to look, all of this is going to look cloudy until that Distress Collage Medium dries. And then it's going to be crystal clear and sparkly and just how it should be. I love using the Mica Flakes on my winter and holiday cards. I use it elsewhere too, but it's just a fun little added embellishment and detail that's not super expensive, but still looks really, really cool. Thank you so much, Anne. Have a great day. So that is it. And then I just took a white gel pen, added a little detail to the pocket, and I did little stripes on each of those purple stripes. I think I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. And so that is how this Get Crackin' on Christmas card came together. So let me know if you guys have any questions as we are wrapping up. Again, I had so much fun with this, and hopefully it inspired you to use your distress watercolor pencils and actually color in images. Because again, that's not something that I do a lot, but it was fun. And again, when you guys are asking me for ideas, that is what inspired me today. So I know there's a little bit of a delay in comments for me, so I'm going to wait a second to see if I'm missing any questions you guys might have. While we're wrapping up, I just want to thank you guys for joining me. Again, Get Crackin' on Christmas is the third Thursday of every month. I post my card on that third Thursday and I announce when it is I will be going live and sharing with you how I made that particular card that month. We are getting into the summer months here on Cape Cod. So I don't teach a ton in the summer. I am a part-time mermaid and I truly like to enjoy the beautiful place I live, and Chris and I spend a lot of time at the beach and the ocean and doing all the outdoorsy things. I do have some fun stuff coming up this summer, so definitely stay tuned. And if you're not subscribed to my email newsletter, make sure that you do. But I am taking part in Firefly Farms' 2 Creative Crate events. She has one coming up in June and one coming up in August. They are both online and available worldwide. The Camp Firefly S'mores edition for June was sold out, but just yesterday, just May 19th, Trisha announced she was able to add a few more seats to that event. I will be teaching an exclusive Lawn Fawn class. You'll actually be playing with some of the June release before it is released. And then there's some other really amazing brands that are teaching classes as well. And Trisha also includes fun little gift items in the box. Everything is so wrapped so cutely and thought out and so creative, and I absolutely love it. So she's doing one in June, and then it's a totally different event in August. I'll be teaching another different exclusive Lawn Fawn class. So definitely check it out. If you go to my website and go to my classes page, I have links so you can go on over to Firefly Farms website and find more details. And then coming up in November is my Creative Journey Art Retreat. This is in person here on Cape Cod with that beautiful view behind Josie and I. That is at the venue, and it's so beautiful. I love looking out at the ocean all weekend while I'm teaching you guys some fabulous projects. Just a heads up, there are only 5 seats left for this November event. So if it's something you were thinking of doing, don't delay much longer. And yeah, and definitely check out the details. Again, all of the information is over on my website, and I would love for you to join me. All right, I did see a couple questions come in, and I want to make sure that I answer those. If you're watching on replay, please put your questions in the comments because I will answer you there. And if you're watching live or on replay, I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up. I hope you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Melissa says, could you use Ranger Multi-Matte Medium in place of Collage Medium for those chunkier glitters? Yes, you could. Totally fine. It's a nice wet glue. It'll dry clear, and it's strong enough to hold the chunk. So yes, Melissa, you could. Amrita said, thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. Daniela says, I can now feel the merry as well. Thank you, Jen. You're welcome. Hopefully it'll inspire you guys. The whole point is I feel the fall is so busy. There's so many things we want to do. And before you know it, the holidays are there. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't make any holiday cards. And then it just kind of becomes a pain. And we don't want it to be a pain. We want to enjoy the process. So that's why I like to do a few holiday cards every month throughout the year. Sheila says, do you have favorite colors for your florals? Well, that's a hard question, Sheila. If you mean with the distress watercolor pencils, specifically, not necessarily markers. I don't really have certain ones I gravitate towards. If you do look on my YouTube channel, I've done some honeybee stamps videos where I've watercolored florals. So you could go back and look at those for some inspiration. I don't remember exactly what colors I used. But yeah, and I do believe if you go to my website and search Pink Fresh, I have watercolored with distress watercolor pencils, some of their florals as well. So hopefully that gives you some inspiration. Thank you so much, Beth. I hope you have fun watching the replay. Miss Brienne, my ninking ninja. My linking ninja, thank you so much for being here today. I know your live schedule is busy, and I always appreciate you being here. Beth, I absolutely loved seeing you and Mary together to open your Creative Journey Art Retreat boxes. That made me so happy, and I'm so glad that you enjoy your kit of goodies. All right, you guys, I will be live again on Thursday, but I'll be over on the Lawn Fawn YouTube channel with Shari. We are going to be doing our adventures in card making. It'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can head on over to Lawn Fawn's YouTube channel to tap the little bell right now so you'll be alerted when we go live. Voting happened yesterday on Lawn Fawn's Instagram stories. So we will share tomorrow what we'll be creating with on Thursday. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure, but you guys choose our adventure. So that's always fun. I can't wait to get together with my East Coast Fawny bestie. I almost said trade show bestie because Libby was here, but East Coast Fawny bestie. And I do know we're going to be making birthday cards because if you didn't already know, May is the best month to have a birthday. I just celebrated my birthday and Shari's birthday is coming up. So if you want to join us, we will be live on Lawn Fawn's YouTube channel at 1 p.m. Eastern time on May 22nd on Thursday. And yeah, I hope you guys all have an awesome rest of your week. Thank you so much to those of you who joined me live, and thank you for those of you that are catching the replay. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I hope that this inspired you. Dig out those distress watercolor pencils and make a holiday card. Definitely tag me in whatever you create. I love to see it. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Have a fabulous day. Bye.